Hello and welcome to the Madecast, the official podcast of the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment, a series of lectures on video game history as part of the Made's ongoing effort to preserve history through teaching and displaying playable exhibits of rare games and consoles.
Well, life in time of COVID has forced us to close our doors for now. The support of people like you has allowed us to continue to bring history to you through lectures and interviews like the one you'll hear in a few minutes. I'm Chin.
I'm Red. We have some exciting news to talk about this week. We have found our new physical location.
Yay.
Yes, it's very exciting news. I had a chat with our executive director, Shem Nguyen, and then we'll talk about, you'll hear about that in a little bit, what this means and what all of you can expect for the future about the Made. It's an exciting new chapter. 2022 is going to be a great year. And we hope to see you all in person in the future very, very soon. But before we get into that news, we have some other gaming news to touch on right now. First of which is Bloomberg has reported that Sega's Super Game Initiative is planning to relaunch Jet Set Radio and Crazy Taxi as like Fortnite-style online games. So that it's about a year too late for this announcement, or a couple years, because the original developers of Jet Set already released Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, the spiritual successor to it, last year.
That is such a bizarre news that my brain is refusing to believing it's right. I mean, it's not an official news yet, but it's a
speculative report. But yes, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Judging by the circumstances, I suppose they don't have the original team and the original composer, but we'll see how they do with the art style, especially for the music. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with it. If they end up going that full route, apparently it's an early development, so we don't know if it's going to be a for sure thing or not, whether it's going to be a combined thing, like where it's just like Super Game and then you can choose whether you want Jet Set Radio or Crazy Taxi. Regardless, that's an exciting little piece of news to look out for. The next exciting news, I think you have a big opinion about this, Chun, but yeah, Xenoblade 3 coming out early?
Yeah, in all the age of delay and later release date and all the troubles of game development, there's actually one game saying we're getting out earlier than we planned it to be. That's Xenoblade 3. What a game.
Yeah, and July 29th is the supposed release date for this, so keep your wallets ready.
Yeah, they have released a new trailer of it, and it seems like they have taken the good story from the good storytelling style from Xenoblade 1, and then the very good battle system from Xenoblade 2, and they make up to be a Xenoblade 3. So I'm very looking forward to it. I just have a little theory on why it's coming out early, but of course it's just my guess. It's because of, okay, let's see. We have Monster Hunter Rise latest expansion, Sunbreak on June. And then now we also know that this summer we will have Splatoon 3. So if this game is got to come out, it's got to be somewhere in between of these games, so they don't fight with each other. I mean, it's all Nintendo's very best-selling game. Of course, you don't want all of them to come in all together at once. So if Xenoblade 3, it's
a couple
gotta
paychecks in between.
Yeah, you gotta get some space between them. So my theory is that after Xenoblade 3, like maybe a month or 2 months later, there'll be Splatoon 3 for all of us. Of course, we haven't got the exact date for yet, but I'll be looking forward to it. But that also means there'll be 3 months there will be 3 months I have to keep playing new games. Yeah, it's gonna be busy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a busy, awesome summer. We also have a new Warcraft expansion coming out very soon. What was the title of this expansion again?
It's gotta be Dragonflight. So they gotta concentrate on the dragons, there used to be a lot of dragons that being the main part of story, like the Deathwing, and I think Blackrock Mountain, Blackrock Tower. Forgive me, I'm not a WoW player. I just
no, that's fine.
Play Hearthstone.
That's acceptable. Yeah, it's like yeah. I'm not a WoW player. I just used to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours.
I really don't play WoW. I just play Hearthstone. Until they decided or making everything random is very fun for a card game.
Yeah, but it's a pretty good, exciting.
It's the first expansion after Microsoft have bought Blizzard, so we'll be looking forward how they are gonna save the World of Warcraft from this kind of disaster in the past years. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what that announces for the future. But riding dragons in World of Warcraft sounds like a pretty fun time. Konami also has a new game called Crime Site. It's supposedly going to be like a PvP multiplayer based on communication. So, like slight Among Us inspiration, I guess, or I guess it's some game like the Among Us and Project Winter. They also make a bundle sale of Project Winter together with this game, so I suppose it's something similar.
So maybe that'll be an exciting thing to check out as well. Definitely going to be excited about that. Keep an eye out. There's other Konami news and everything else that we will probably touch on in a later episode. But we also have a new God of War announcement from Cory Barlog, and that is they have nothing to share yet.
I have one thing to talk.
They're hard at work. Their heads down. He said they're perfectionists, so they're working on it right now, but they have nothing to share. They said they promise to share something as soon as they have something to share. So everybody's hard at work and has their heads down, tightening up graphics and everything. But he says everybody seems excited. It doesn't seem like there's the same amount, like the same kind of stress and everything that was plagued the first God of War. But we'll see. I'm very excited for this release, and we'll see what it gets into the future. But for now, I think that's all the news we have. Now on to the little chat I had with Shem about our big news and our new space. And welcome back to the Madecast. We are here once again with our executive director, Mr. Shem. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Red?
I'm doing pretty good. A little bit excited. I heard that there's been some big happenings on there, but I want to just touch bases with you, see how you've been doing. Any new exciting things that you've been working on? Any fun games you've been getting your hands on?
Yeah, I've just been, I think I'll save the stuff I've been working on until a little bit later, but games I've been playing, Valheim. Played a little bit of it. I had to stop about last week just to work on other stuff. But yeah, I'm going to look forward to jumping back once things start cooling down a little bit.
Yeah. So what have you been doing in Valheim recently? Just like exploring, building? What is like your general premise with what you play, how you play it?
Mostly just building. I think I honestly only got in about like 5-6 hours in. And so it's just enough to run around, collect some berries, and start building my house. Nice. I know, I'm pretty proud of it. It looks like basically a farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere.
Very nice, yeah.
My wife's been playing it, and she's been running away from a bunch of the giant ogre things. So I actually haven't seen any of those yet. I think I'm kind of like the scaredy pants type that just holes up inside of the house until I have tools.
Yeah, build your defenses up, get comfortable, do some groundbreaking first, build the house, and then move on from there. Yeah, I've been glued to Elden Ring, which many like listeners on the show have already known. It's it's not quite a problem, but it's all like half of who am I kidding? It's the majority of my free time has been going into Elden Ring. It's beautiful. It's large. It's just it's too much. It's too much. It's too much for one game.
I think I only know one person who's beaten it so far, and I think they put in 160 hours.
Yeah, I think I'm at like, I'm not quite there. I'm like 120, but I think like 12 of those have been me falling asleep with my computer on. So,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of buffer. Still majority in-game play, but not quite as strict.
Yeah, my only issue, I love games like that. I just wish they had a cute version of it.
It's Animal Crossing. It's Animal Crossing.
No, but I need like punishing Animal Crossing then. There's no punishing Animal Crossing.
FromSoft needs to contact Animal Crossing to make a new dark Switch port of Elden Ring.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the thing that got close to it was Breath of the Wild with the Lynels. Yeah. But then you run out of Lynels, and then, like, that's all you have. I want like a game where it's all just Lynels with the same style as Breath of the Wild.
Lynels should be the first enemy you face.
Yeah, totally.
And then move on from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw you into the hard parts and let you know what to expect for the future.
Yep. Pretty much.
Well, I'm glad to hear you've been dipping your toes in a little bit of Valheim, but you said you were a little bit busy and preoccupied last week. So, any big news about why you've been preoccupied so much?
Yeah, so outside of the day job, because the museum is very volunteer run, as I've said before, we are excited to announce that we have found a space for the museum to reopen. We just signed the lease agreement last Friday.
So that is huge and exciting news. We're going to be back open later this year. We have a new space. It's very exciting. Are there any, like, what was the... Do you want to tell people about the space, where it's going to be, what they can expect?
Yeah, definitely. So it's on the corner of Washington and 10th, I believe.
Yes, Washington and 10th is, at least I remember from my saved Google Maps for the Swans Market location. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, you'll know it when you get there. It's Swans Market, and there's this giant swan sign that is on the corner. On that street corner. It's directly across the street from the convention center. So if there's any gaming conventions that end up popping up there, like the last time the Smash tournament was over there, we'll be right across the street. So to any folks who are thinking about gaming events and are looking for a convention center, the Oakland Convention Center is right across the street from us.
Right across the street. There's a new space to take breaks and enjoy the history about where Smash came from. So
and definitely folks we've already had some people reach out and are saying like, we need those Smash tournaments again. And we do. So, I mean, of course, those take volunteers to run too. I just ran into Michael Texan, who used to run those events. And so, we're all ready to go and just really excited to reopen there. There's some highlights of the space. There's a coffee shop that's really close by. There's a few kind of just like eateries, Ratto's, which has like my favorite sandwiches. So I honestly could not think of a better space for the museum. And then like in terms of education, there's Lincoln Elementary School that's just down the street. We have over to the west of us, we have West Oakland. There's like all of the kids coming from those elementary schools, like McClymonds High School. And so it's just like so central inside of Oakland, and folks from everywhere in Oakland can go over there and have some fun.
So what are the are there any like tentative plans? You said this place is run by volunteers, and we will absolutely need more volunteers to help with the reopening. Is there anyone that people should get in contact with, that people should talk with about getting in with helping out with the Maid and its reopening?
Yeah, absolutely. And so info, INFO, at themade.org, THEMADE.org. So go shoot an email off to info@themade.org and let us know that you're willing to volunteer. We have a very short timeline to reopen. And so we could use as much help as we can get. And it's not just like, when you think about a museum, there's so much that is involved in getting it up and running. And unlike other museums, like what we're doing does not really have a very defined process. Because if you think about video games, like they've only existed for in like kind of the public sphere for consumers for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like you will be having a huge impact on the way that video games are preserved now and in the future. We're one of the only few institutions that actually do this. And so, yeah, like the things that we need, like it could be anything from helping us move, which that's like obviously like the big concern right now is like, how do we get basically 2,000 square feet of stuff into the museum? And then there's like, well, how do we display it? So if you're interested in exhibit design, if you're interested in like thinking of like, what's the way, how do we display this exhibit to the public in a way that is still true to one of the components of the game? And when I say one of the components, like there's the playable aspect of the game, like how do we and then there's because like you want people to play the game in order to understand why it's so historically relevant. But then on the other hand, there can be components of the video game itself. Sorry, my cat's going crazy.
It's all good.
That. But there's the other component of like, well, how is the game packaged? How did was it delivered? And so, for instance, we have cartridges that are still in their original packaging as they were sent to stores for distribution. And that's another really interesting thing is like, how do you display those? And then do you put them next to the game? So those things, there's also things like, how do you organize the entire museum? The method of organization is going to differ a little bit differently because we also have to think about like when we do put the original consoles out to be used, how do we make it so that parts that are necessary are in an accessible location for volunteers who are working the desk or some of our employees who are working the desk to have everything accessible so that they can replace and repair things. There's also, and then kind of talking about like the playability aspect. So we were granted a DMCA exemption because we are involved in the preservation of video games.
Yeah, we talked about this on the museum before as well with all of that. On the podcast before, we've talked about how like emulation has seen, like we're part of the preservation of these different games that are, some of them are so hard to find and we're so limited that emulation is the only way that they are able to be preserved at the moment. We're like some of the old like advertising games, like essentially like the Ovaltine games that you would get, like the decoder ring that would tell you to buy more Ovaltine, except those are just games that were made by like Sears back in the day for Atari just to check out. Like some of those rare, like weird non-games you can only really get with emulation. You can't really find an old school cartridge. Yeah, so there's opportunities to do that too. So there's just so much. And I guess the last thing that I kind of really want to highlight is the kind of art assets and the design work. We have an amazing creative director, Stephen Wheeler, who you'd get to work with. But
We need a lot of help just being able to put together promotional materials and get those out so that people know about events, so that people know about the classes that we teach, so that we can really just maximize the amount of impact that we have on Oakland and the impact that we have on the preservation of video games in general.
Yes. If you can, anybody who's listening who wants to help, who lives in the area, even if you don't live in the area, there are things that you can do to help the MAID, like via cataloging everything that we have, ideas on how certain games that we have can be saved and how they can be cataloged as a historical item, so we can then further preserve and actually use all of the things that we have at the museum. So like people can come and do research if they wish on like the history of all these different games, on everything that you can play. So any help that people out there want to do, it's going to be really exciting, and we'll love to have the help. This video game is not run by one person or two people or even three people. It's run by the volunteers and the community around. So
yeah, and I think one thing I'd like to point out is maybe 10 years ago, if you were to look at video game preservation and video game console preservation, it may not have seemed very relevant, may not have seemed very important. But now if you go on eBay, some of these devices that you find are like exorbitantly pricey, like way beyond their initial value. And so I think like if we think about the amount of effort it would take for all of us individually to create our own video game collections, that's a lot of work. And trying to predict what is going to be like it basically becomes this very kind of money driven pursuit. And I think that the beauty of a museum is that this will all be accessible to everybody. We don't all have to go pursue the previous consoles in order to experience it. We can all just work together and have something that works for us all. And that's really how I got involved in the museum. I started teaching classes here, but just like, I don't want to own all of these consoles in my house. Like, where do I put them? And like, how much time am I seriously going to spend on them? So it just makes sense that if I'm going to be working on a collection, that collection should be shared by all of us. And we can all have access to old NES games, old Atari games, any game console we want to play.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones that always like stood out to me were back in the corner at the old space, but just the old Intellivision and the old Vectrex. You do not see those anywhere. And it's just such a unique experience to actually get your hands on these old consoles when wood paneling on electronics was deemed really fancy.
It should be brought back.
I agree. Wood paneling equates quality.
Yeah, totally. No, I spent like, I think that every single time I went to the museum, I'd spend at least 20-30 minutes on the Vectrex. And that's like, it's so funny to think of, because there's just all these modern consoles and everything. And if it's like saying that you go to the Louvre and you don't go to a certain part of the museum because it's too old. It's like, no, you don't. That's like kind of the point. It's like, it's still art. And video games are like that too. It's still art. And so it's still good. There's those components that people need to be able to experience and not have to spend tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that.
Yeah. So the tentative date for when we're going to be open to the public, do we have like a timeline, or there is a date that we're shooting for? Yes. Yeah.
So we are aiming for the week of June 1st. Like I think that a very soft reopening of June 1st would be amazing. But this being a very volunteer run organization, it really depends on you, like whoever is listening to this. How many volunteers can we get, and that will ultimately determine how soon we can reopen.
Yeah. So if anybody out there is listening and wants to help out, again, shoot an email at info@themade.org. It's very exciting. We have a lot more coming up too. So the whole reopening, including classes, are we looking to start up that same week?
So classes, I think you would definitely want to keep on top of the email list for that. I want to open those up as soon as possible. What's unfortunate is a bunch of our teachers have kind of like taken some time for themselves due to the pandemic, which, as I say to all volunteers, first of all, look out for yourselves.
Yes.
Because like I think that volunteering should always feel like it's providing you with something.
Yes.
We volunteer because it's, we have something to give. So that being said, I will probably be teaching the classes because that's also like a passion of mine. Yeah. Either way, like whether I'm executive director or not, I will definitely be taking some time to teach the classes. But that being said, being the lone teacher while I run the museum, I might need a little bit of time to get that started. But when it does, it's going to be amazing because we're going to keep the same model. So if you attend the classes, the classes will happen before the museum opens, and the kids who attend the classes get free access to the museum afterwards. That's the beauty of what we do, I think, is like not only are the classes fun because kids are actually learning how to make video games and they care about video games and they love video games and they want to make them their own. But after they do that, they get to go out and see like where their work can take them. Like they will be able to make any of these games if they kind of put the effort towards that path of self-expression.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been very exciting. We're very much looking to getting the next generation of game developers back dipping their toes in where everything has come from. We're all very excited that we've finally found our new home. I agree with you that everything that we have is going to be like the location. It couldn't be better for what we're trying to do and who we're trying to reach. It's really exciting, and thank you for your time about this, and thank you for all the work that you've put in about helping get this new space up and running and all the logistic things signed and taken care of.
Yeah. And I think like kind of just going off of those thank yous, I think that as I think that it's basically the theme of this, but volunteers make this happen. And we've had just so much support from a lot of different folks, like the volunteers here. So like this podcast has been amazing. People have come out and helped us move. The folks who were in the space previously, Akash and Tommy, with Ginkgo Bioworks and with Civic Design Studio, they were able to connect us with Ibaltsi, and Ibaltsi is a great nonprofit working on affordable housing issues and like connecting folks to businesses and nonprofits that are really beneficial to the neighborhood, that are trying to like create a sense of community and create a livable space. So like we have a lot of people to thank for this, and we really do look forward to finding a way to collaborate and really make Oakland into a place that works for us all. And we believe that the way that we can do that is really through video games and by encouraging people to express themselves through them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a beautiful sentiment, and I think we're all going to be really excited for the future. But I think that's about all the time we have for this special announcement about our new space. We finally have a physical space. So this has been very exciting. Thank you very much, Shem, and we will definitely have some more updates from you very soon.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Alrighty.
All right. Take it easy, Red.
You too. And we're back. Thank you, Shem, for your time. We're all very excited for what's to come for the future. So for those of you who want a little bit of a recap, the soft opening or the goal for our doors to open is going to be June 1st. And because we are a volunteer-run organization, we will any help that anyone wants to offer us in the reopening, be it physically moving some of our systems and everything into the new space, doing exhibit design, cataloging our collection, and just general help and volunteers if you want to help. We also need a couple teachers to help teach some programming and game design classes for kids. If you're interested in doing any of that, please, again, shoot an email to info@themade.org. That is the biggest way that you can help us out. If you want to reach out and help out, is send an email to the info@themade.org. But it'll be it's really exciting. I'm very, very happy, and my heart is full seeing that we're finally open and gonna get everything back and running again. But for now, have you been playing anything fun, Chun?
I haven't been playing any new games, but I have some new equipment, and I have been doing some really fun in Final Fantasy XIV recently. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, so what happened in Final Fantasy XIV is we have a new players living area being released in the latest patch notes, and what we have to do is we gotta buy our new homes, and we are all taking the lottery and trying to fight each other to get those new houses for ourselves. And yeah, it's like, yeah. It was really fun, and I give it a try on some new contents, like the new 24-man raid in Final Fantasy. I'm not gonna spoil the name and everything of it, and it's awesome. The music is awesome. The new mechanics, it's exciting, and I can't wait to play it every single week.
Yeah, everything is very, very exciting.
It's kind of amazing. They can always make something better. They never fail to excite all the players. Besides how many music they already have been doing, they just keep on doing good stuff. Got the consistency of quality is crazy in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, it's some really exciting news. There's Final Fantasy XIV is just ever growing. I've still just been putting a lot of time into Elden Ring. Not as much in this past week. Life has gotten a little bit hectic trying to get through everything.
Yeah,
but Elden Ring has still been quite the exciting. Yeah, just quite the exciting trip. I mean, I'm still blown away by how massive this. It's so huge. I've never seen an open world this big.
I heard they have released a new patch note again for something. They fix some bugs and they fix some broken stuff.
Bugs. I think buffed some armor. Kind of leveled out some of the weapons and everything. It's going to be really I'm excited to get my hands on it a little bit. I might get a little bit of time to play tonight with it, so that'll be my fun for the day. But I think that's about unfortunately, I think that's about all the time we have for today's episode. But we want to thank you for listening to the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment's official podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, corrections, or general museum ideas, again, please shoot us an email at info@themade.org. Also, if you're interested in helping volunteer, we're always looking for more volunteers to help make The Made what it is. We'd like to send out a big thank you to everyone who donated recently and to our Patreon supporters who keep The Made afloat. Patreon donors get to listen to this podcast 1 week before it's released on major streaming services, and we'll continue with that with future episodes every week.
This week's episode was brought to you in part by Patreon donors Daniel J. Hinan and James Gray. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much. Until next time, I'm Red.
I'm Chin. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Hopefully in person next time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Later, gamers.
God.